welcome back to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates, viewers. We are continuing to chat this morning with more influential women within our space as we celebrate International Women's Day and explore the theme of including women and being a little bit more inclusive with our women in our society. Now, for this segment, I am being joined by Miss Rayshawn Pierre-Kerr, who is no stranger to us. And of course, she is the artistic director at the Tobago Performing Arts Company. So a special good morning and welcome to you, Rayshawn. How are you doing this morning?
Good morning. I'm well. I'm very well. Very happy to be here. Good morning, Tobago.
And we're here, of course, to celebrate women. And I mean, I want to talk a bit about, because you are so embedded into our arts here in Tobago, every sphere of our arts here in Tobago, and just the influence of women in that.
I think when it comes to art is really about advancing particular kinds of agendas, social agendas, cultural agendas, developmental agendas. And because of the overall role that women play in society, because art is really meant to mirror society, the role that women play is beyond critical, is beyond significant, but I would go as far as to say it's foundational to the development of any space and the agenda of any space. I think right here in Tobago, and I'm pulling from some research that I've done in the past, women and girls make up such a large fraction of the creative ecosystem. And so because of that, more and more we're seeing that there is need to privilege and to center the voices of women and girls.
Certainly. And tell me about just that influence that women has on our art. And this is in general, whether it be in theater, in music, whatever it is.
I mean, I think it is no secret that women have the potential to influence change. Beyond their potential, women are actually the change agents. In and around the arts, from if you take a cursory glance of all sectors, you will find that women are the ones who drive the productivity. Women are the ones who inspire leadership with empathy. Women are the ones who are very focused on nurturing care and particular kinds of well-being. Not just amongst women or amongst their own communities, but for everyone in general. And that is essentially the influence that women have on not just arts practice, not just the creative ecosystem, but society as a whole.
And even though women are so much embedded into it, do you think that we are recognized enough or celebrated enough in the arts when compared to our male counterparts?
When it comes to celebration in the arts, I have two perspectives. On the one hand, I feel there has been approaches to celebrating women, but so much more can be done. But what I've also found is that women are taking up arms and celebrating themselves. Women are far more comfortable with saying, "Here I am. This is what I do. Would you like to be part of what I do?" So now, particularly because of the levels of access, the spaces that have been created for women, you find women are 10 times more vocal. And I'm talking from my own particular perspective. My grandmother shares stories with me about not being able to say certain things and not being able to do certain things. And she comes out of arts practice. But that's absolutely not the case now, because if I feel it, I will say it. If I feel strongly about it, I will share it. I think outside of women taking up arms and celebrating themselves, from both a policy standpoint, from a social development standpoint, so much more can be done to ensure that women are always included in the conversation. There is no dialogue nationally, locally, should happen without women's perspective, without women's intervention. Simply put, without women's side, without women's viewpoint, and particularly when we're looking at issues from a woman's vantage.
So you mentioned that, we should be included, women should be included a little bit more in certain conversations. So what are those conversations that you would like to see a bit more of the women's perspective involved in?
I think all conversations, from and let me springboard from arts practice, from cultural development. Women's voices need to be center. From social development, from education standpoint, women's voices need to be centered. A lot of people will still tell you that women are amongst the most marginalized group, and that is the case by and large. And in a lot of instances, and so the way to combat some of those things, the way to combat marginalization, the way to combat lack of inclusion, the way to combat lack of access, is to everywhere there is a serious conversation happening, or any conversation for that matter, be it in health and wellness, be it in social protection, be it in agriculture, and creating pools of access for women, creating equal opportunity for women across every possible sector that I can think about, or we can think about. Women have to be central to the conversation.
Certainly. And then when you look at the art sector in particular, you know, how have we been treating our women? I say this in perspective of, you know, when, let's say we take calypso, our male calypsonians are the ones that seem to get a little bit more attention. They attract a bigger, more gigs and that sort of thing, to be able to make more money and stuff. What is it like? What's the space like in Tobago, and how included women are in terms of having that equity across the board?
I think, from my own vantage, women have created quite a lot of space for themselves. I am fortunate, and I'm going back on the Calypso reference, I'm fortunate to have been at the preliminary judging tent for the National Monarch. And quite a number of women were featured: Nicole Thomas, Gigi Fraser Washington, Gavi Sandy. So there is space for women's voices to be included in the conversation. From a general arts practice perspective, particularly to reference TPAC, last October Carnival, we spent some time studying the work of Calypso Rose, who is no stranger, not just to Tobago, but to the world. And we saw from Rose's perspective, from her life, from her walk, from her journey, that some of the issues that she faced, particularly being a woman, a Calypsonian, an Afro-Caribbean woman, existing in, like you say, a male-dominated space, that the onus was on her to create space for herself. And her ability to stand up for herself created ripple effects. That was really saying, I am just as good as all of the other men. My voice has value in the same way that the men's voice have value. So linking Rose's time to contemporary time, I think a lot more opportunities can be created to, on the one hand, understand some of the unique challenges that women face, and to bridge those gaps in a manner that is strategic, in a manner that is meaningful, and in a way that will really reach women at the point of their needs, and then create space for them to feel comfortable and safe to stand in spaces that feel male-dominated.
Certainly. And as you mentioned, TPAC, of course, I mean, that's the center of where you are right now. But, you know, and TPAC, you all did such a wonderful job with that show that was dedicated to Rose a couple months ago. Was it a couple
October.
months ago?
It was October.
Sorry, time is flying by.
It is. It is.
So, but I mean, are we going to see a lot more of that coming out, where we take that those influential women within our society, and then we try to portray it in a way that it can inspire our young people, especially?
When it comes to particular stories from heroines or women of note in and around this space, that is a further developmental conversation, like next year, in years. As a matter of fact, let me retract that. I want to share something, but I want to choose my words wisely. We're working on something that will be to the delight of quite a lot of Tobagonians, which essentially centers stories that we have experienced before. I'm trying to choose all of my words wisely. I don't want to give it away. That we've seen before. So we will get to experience a remake of a very important woman, a story from a very important woman in our space, as well as look at, through arts practice, dance, music, drama, film, what are some of the concerns but also what are some of the leaps and bounds that women in our space have made to the betterment of all women and girls that exist in Tobago.
And then tell me about that passion, that inspiration that you guys are operating from in terms of being able to, choose those women in our society and to find a best way to highlight their story.
Yeah. A lot of our philosophy is drawn from those who have gone before us.
Mm-hmm.
One person in particular is Dr. Elder and the work that he would have done in the folk and cultural arts.
Mm-hmm.
And he basically said, if we can spend the time to study culture, we can look microscopically at all of the things that exist in the space that are of value to us, that we need to continue to advance and to forward and to talk about. And so our passion is drawn from the fact that we're bridging the gaps.
Mm-hmm.
We're bridging gaps of knowledge. We're bridging the gaps of exposure and experience, the ways of being that are very unique to us. We're bridging the gap by looking at the things that matter to us in a way that we can continue to connect to. And essentially, that helps to build our own cultural confidence as Tobagonians.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, we're getting ready to wrap up this morning. Yeah. But before we go, I just want to give you a minute just to, speak to our women, especially where culture and the arts are concerned, and just being able to forge our way through.
Yeah, absolutely. Just do it. Get up. Do it. If you feel strongly about it, if you're passionate about it, it begins with passion. There is absolutely nothing that you can't achieve, that you can't grab hold of and call yours. If you get up and you make the attempt and you try and you get it done, stand in your community, stand on the things that you believe in, speak up against the things that you do not believe in, share your gifts, share. What you all say? Share the life. Yes. Share your gifts. Share your gifts. There is no hurt. There is no pain in sharing. And sometimes sharing might be painful, but at the end of that sharing is real liberation. Your voice matters. Just do it. Just do it.
All right, great. Thank you so much for being on with us and for sharing your perspectives.
Sure.
And we're looking forward to seeing what TPAC is doing. Ooh. And which of our influential women they are going to be highlighting next. I'm excited to see, because if you missed Calypso Rose Show October, you missed a treat. So they did such a wonderful job. But
Thank you.
That means that there are lots of good things to come, especially for women.
Lots of good things to come, yes.
All right, great. Well, viewers, we have a lot more coming up for you on GMT, so don't go anywhere. We'll be back after this break.